yeah. Rock and roll, 2 parts today, cause in between sunset and going to the mountain, we're gonna have to do a double trouble special rock and roll edition. Dragon versus Trump. It is 7 degrees, and yours truly gonna go on that rock and roll straight towards the sun, in the sun, towards the sun, in the sun, towards the sun, for a little bit of that rock and roll as we go 24/7. Grateful, thankful. Electricity bills paid, rent's paid, got food and coffee, and got a little bit of that good sweet at home, some wafers from yesterday's. So gotta begin with gratitude. Let's go. For the North American Collective, in the sun, we rock on the roll. On the road, got the backpack. Stretch before commencing all your bodily limbs. We're just gonna snake it like a snake towards the sun and come back straight. My Pope, the King, the sun is shining. Today it is 18th already. Tuesday 18th. No to the tariffs. Dragon versus Trump. And this is gonna become beautiful right here. Beautiful. Spring's coming. 48 more hours of winter officially. It's still winter until 19th, 20th. So you're still gonna begin that high holiday telemite season. Wanna be telemite here. Turn your heads left and right before you cross the street. And I think it's more than 7, although it feels like maybe a little bit more than 7. But that was the latest on my application. It says 7 degrees, but with the sun going towards the sun, it feels a little bit more. So rock and roll, gonna say gratitude. Grateful, thankful. My rent's paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, got food and coffee, and got the backpack. Red backpack, red, going towards the sun. My Pope, the King, the sun, who now sets and now rises, and got those gloves, which were gifted to yours truly by my anonymous friend about a few years ago when I started challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border. Still am. Let's build that North American Imperial People's Coliseum, public-private partnership. Support the dream. My dream fundamentally is a call for a public-private partnership across the North American collective civilizational complex. And although today I am financially stressed, got $10,000 in debt. As you can see from my videos, sometimes I go to the bank and I show, because, gotta get that financial transparency and so many things I don't know, but maybe the sun see us all, that 42 code, like those 42 journeys of the Israelites, is fit, blah, 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 18th of March, 2025, marking 5 years since I survived COVID. 5 years ago, I had COVID, and I was really struck. It was really painful. I thought I was gonna die. It was like death, pestilence, and disease. It was like death, pestilence, and disease. It was like death, pestilence, and disease. I know when I say that, it felt like death, pestilence, and disease. That sounds like a death, hardcore, trash metal song, but that's how I felt. And in 2020, between February 7th, 2020, and end of March 29th, 28th of March 2025. So about that time, of course, I was sick, ill and diseased, and I crossed, of course, a great, painful journey to survive, and that's what it is with that. And I survived, and I'm here, grateful, thankful, got that rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. And I always love to work out, train, exercise, and working out, training, exercising has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice. And I gotta give a little bit of salutation to the sun, my King, the Pope, as it now rises and now sets, and that's how we gotta get doing with that on this island metropolis, Montreal, of 2.5 million people. 2.5 million people on the island, and I see somebody's gonna hitting that field, so I was gonna go hit the field myself, and I'm gonna let them do a little bit of football drills, HHH. I love football, but dancing is my favorite sport. And yours truly, androgynous, pansexual, aspie, artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical, analyst, and theorist, always grateful, thankful, rent's paid, electricity bills paid, and gotta give some LoveEvent to the firefighters, bus drivers, bakers, butchers, nurses, doctors, and those in the daycares changing some diapers. Only gotta go do that rock and roll for them as well, because it's rock and roll 24/7. Rock and roll for the firefighters, LOV of the North American Civilizational Complex, Canada-US joint. Let's fuse in a public-private partnership, my brothers and sisters, fellow Canadians. The King is absent. And I was a little bit upset, and I said that's kind of obsolete. She gotta go. Time for the Republican. When I hear the current Prime Minister, swearing allegiance to the King, the King is absent. King is absent. I remember 7 years ago in August, when I crossed Canada coast to coast. Before that, I was depressed and suicidal, and that event really changed my whole life. Before that, 2017 August, 2017 August, 2017 August, 2017 August, 2017 August. I went to BC, British Columbia, and of course, then I came back, and then went to Halifax, Nova Scotia, and that event in my life really changed my whole life. Before that event, I was depressed, I was suicidal, and that event made me establish a strong esprit de corps, and I got proof, because I still got those tickets, So celebrating not only surviving COVID, but surviving many scars, many trauma, being attacked by surprise a few times, got plenty of scars all over my body, even some which I'm not ashamed to admit, mysterious origins, whatever the case may be, on that rainbow, on the rainbow. Itches sometimes, but and recently I'm joyous, and that's what I is, joyous and just financially stressed. My only stress now is economic, financial, commercial, and I gotta be grateful because I got like $700 something. I paid my rent right away, paid my electricity bill at the beginning of March, paid my phone, and that's what I'm doing, this work here. And I always meditate, because I do every day. What I do is I have a kind of routine, ritualized routine, because I have Asperger's. So us who have Asperger's, we're neurodivergent. So our neurodivergent makes us predisposed to special interests. So those special interests, whatever the case may be, because they vary from individual aspect, those interests just preoccupy our daily habits, preoccupy our daily routine, so we can be super focused, super intense. That's what it is with that, and we can go super intense and super concentrated and super fit with that, and that's how we gotta get doing it. As an aspie, for me, is geopolitics. And I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, so I predicted the current situation back in 2019, and I also have proof of work, hundreds of videos, workout videos, consequently, sports and fitness is also my obsessive special interest. I don't use the word obsessive because obsessive has a more negative connotation. When you use obsessive, has a more negative connotation, That's what we gotta get doing with that, So we gotta get it on the go. So special interest does more justice to what we are as aspies. We just have those special interests where it preoccupies our daily habits. Our daily lives rotate like a constellation around those special interests. And for me, of course, is geopolitics, 24/7, sports and fitness and sports. Dancing is my favorite sport activity. I love to dance. So that is basically my favorite sports and fitness activity, just dancing. I can dance for hours, and parallel with that is rock and roll. So that's my holy trinity, and I do it on the daily. Even today, I did a load of laundry, the common laundry, and I was immersed from the morning till the afternoon. After I left, I realized that I spent 5 hours almost uninterrupted, just listening to different divergent and different, of course, videos on YouTube and channel, just analyzing whatever the case may be, analyzing different videos and different points of view from all over the world to see what is it that, they purport, and that is what it is with that, and this is what it is for the goal, and that's just for the love, So analyzing the geopolitical situation that it is now, we got to get it on the analysis. And of course, I have predicted what's happening now back in 2019 in October, November, So that's what I predicted, an international conflagration, and that is what it is with that. And here I am, financially stressed, androgynous pansexual artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and mystic. I know in reincarnations, and I was born in the United States 3 times, post 70-76, once as a woman, twice as a man, and right here, right now, here in Quebec, as well as a Quebecois and Quebecer, and met Louis Cyr, but even before it was known as Quebec, right at the beginning in the 1600s and 1700s, and served in the same United States Armed Forces twice, and I believe, Dragon versus Trump as we go. Have been named. That's when I really got into politics, when Donald Trump imposed tariffs on 10% at the beginning of spring 2018. So in the first Trump administration about 7 years ago, and my anonymous friend gifted those gloves, which I'm proud to carry in the backpack with me whenever I go to the mountain, and which I'm gonna use to fight Donald Trump on the Canadian-US border, as we're gonna fuse in a public-private partnership. And I don't know about that 51st state, but I am for a fusion, of course, of Canada, for a fusion of Canada in whatever the case may be, for fusing Canada in, of course, an instrumental North American complex, just like the European Union, with that. So that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. Just gotta love that red a bit. It's red, you know, so whatever the case may be, so that is what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing, you know. So it's always gratitude, grateful, thankful. My rent's paid, electricity bill's paid, got food and coffee, you know. So I got a little bit of wafers leftovers with that. So it's always good to get a little bit of that leftovers as I go towards the sun. And yesterday, you know, I checked the prices and I recorrected it with the workers there because they made a mistake on the price. They charged me the price, and that's how we gotta get doing. I just gotta move out of the way and go hydrate. Go a little bit of that hydration, you know. So super excited on a beautiful day like this, encouraging all to base some exercise, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, getting a little bit of that exercise, and that's how we gotta get. And just imagine all the work, labor underneath the ground to make this available for us, for me, for you, for us. And gotta always check that hygiene. Always gotta check that hygiene. Check the hygiene, please. Let's go HYDRATE, hydrate. Oh yeah, feels good. So imagine all the work, which I gotta salute, you know, the public workers, the North American Collective, gotta salute the public workers, you know. Imagine just all the work underneath with the sewers, all the work across Montreal here on the island of the Hawk Island, aka Montreal. I live, of course, in a big island, big city, and so I gotta get doing with that, and gotta get out of the way because my fellow cousin, auntie, or I consider Quebecers Canadian as family. And you know, ever since that day when I crossed Canada coast to coast in 2017 and I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, I consider Canadians, Quebecers my family, and that's what we gotta go doing with that. That's what we gotta go doing towards the sun, my King the Pope, you know. And I gotta give a salutation to the train conductors, bus drivers, public workers, and see how my brain functions because of Asperger's. One of my holy special interests is geopolitics. So now I put this train going west, public train going west, in the geopolitical sphere. In the geopolitical sphere. Meaning I equate it with geopolitics. Meaning that, of course, I meditate on the train and the possibility for espionage and sabotage, because our trains, our highways, our trucks are open for potential espionage and sabotage at this tough geopolitical moments. You know, as the king is absent, fellow Canadians. The king is absent. Call the king to come do some volunteering here, you know. Call King Charles to come do some volunteering, It's time for the Republic, and I don't know about that 51st state. I'm far from being a Trump supporter. I'm a Democratic Republican, a pro-labor and love revolutionary centrism. My centrism is tied hand in hand with the call to the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, which I'm laying the foundations of with trillions of kisses first and foremost, billions of trillions of marching steps, and lots of rock and roll. And it's fundamentally a public-private partnership and a fusion here, the North with the South. We're North through North, strong and free, but we got to add some LoveEvent with that, with my brothers and sisters in the United States, via a complex, a North American complex parallel to the European Union, with a dragon army, 51 legions, to mobilize 1% of the population of Canada and the United States to form an integrated security service and defense force. an integrated security service and defense force, only for security service and defense force, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. And to do a great census, we have to implement the DRT, Debt Refusion Treaty, to create the UE, a new currency, Canada and United States, and to do a great census to see an establishment of everybody who's been living here since 2020, let's say February, since COVID hit, or of course since before that, since 2017 when I crossed Canada coast to coast. And that event in my life made me, of course, come out of being depressed and suicidal, and that completely changed my whole life, you know. So that's what it is with that, and that's how we gotta go, you know, for the XYZ. To get doing on that, you know, is something which we gotta do as a collective civilizational complex. We also gotta do the due diligence, of course, of recycling, where we gotta do that recycling, and we gotta get it on the bars, you know, and encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. Working out, training, and exercising has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice. So I gotta get on that drill here, man. I'll throw it there on the gotta get it on the go, man, you know, the youth. Gotta LOV the youth. Oh, I gotta put there on the backpack, hold on. Gotta put it on the go there, you know. Auctioning this backpack for a million here, standing where is the RBC, you know, Royal Bank of Canada here. So auctioning the backpack, a million for the shoes, a million for the pants. Here I am, my bank here, the RBC, is where I owe about 10,000 to get it on the go. So yeah, I'm gonna cross to the other side, you know, because we got lights. So we gotta get in the sun, you know. So being that we gotta get in the sun with that, we gotta get on that transmission, and that's what we gotta get doing, you know. Always encouraging all to work out, train, exercise, and working out, training, exercising has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice, and that's what we gotta get doing, man. Oh, let me see what books they have here. I don't know, maybe something else. We gotta get it on that, and we gotta get it on the transmission there. And oh, look at that! You gotta see a dragon, a rainbow dragon. Maybe it says all or nothing. How Trump recaptured America. Let me go ask. Hello, how much is the Trump book? All or nothing book? Please, it's in the front. Gonna wash a bit, disinfect.
One is $42.
Ooh, pricey. I can't afford it today.
That's before tariffs.
What a mess, dear. What a mess. Love you later. 42 before the tariffs. I like that. That was funny, although it's not funny, but we gotta keep our Canadian humor going, eh? Love you. That's my auntie there, you know. She was, of course, saying a bit of a joke there that our Canadian humor before the tariffs, and it was a Trump book, all or nothing. But so it should be a dragon book about from the ashes, you know, from survived COVID 5 years ago. That's what I'm marking. I survived COVID. Sometimes I just don't even know how come I survived COVID, and I thought that was my last chapter, you know. So today is the march of surviving COVID. I really thought that was my last chapter. I said, oh, that's it, you know, it's my last days, and that's it. My last chapter, my last days, you know. That's what we gotta do. So I said, I'm done. But I survived. I credit my surviving to the goddess, G-O-D-D-S-S, the goddess, the goddess, the goddess, the goddess, the goddess, the goddess, the goddess. And I will to build the forgotten goddess temple to the construction workers, because I gotta send some LOV to those construction workers on the cranes, to build all the collective North American civilization, the highways, the houses, skyscrapers, small cities, big cities, all of course that were done. You know, that's what it is with that. And gonna cross the street here, left and right, go in the sun. You know, here of course there's a pedestrian. You have to give permission. The cars have to give permission. Here the cars have to give permission. But I always turn my head left and right, because you never know. Sometimes the cars, you know, what if the brake malfunctions? So I always check. What if the brakes, you know, sometimes the brakes don't function so good, eh? So I always check. Or the citizen driver might press the accelerator, tries to stop, but presses the accelerator. So being that I'm in the public, I always gotta get that double prudence, add a little bit of consequence prudence, because I got added responsibilities, duties, and obligations, which in the normal circumstances of life I don't have. If I would have stayed home, I would have had the same. I would have had the same, you know. I would have not had the same if I would have stayed home, you know, in my dragon's lair. And here I am, survived 5 years ago, 2020, between February and March. Had COVID, you know. Had COVID, and I had many jobs, and the firefighters, LOV. Love you, firefighters, get back home safe, and somebody wash their feet, give them some good hugging and massages with it, you know. LOV to our firefighters, our butchers, our bakers, our nurses, our doctors, our truckers, our grocery store clerks, warehouse workers, construction workers. Let's build the forgotten goddess GODDSS temple on the Canadian-US border. That's my will to build, and on the Canadian-US border as well, 11 times bigger than the stadium, Coliseum Arena, where the hardball ball was played, aka blackout ball. The hardball ball, aka blackout ball, hardball ball, aka blackout ball, was one of my top 5 favorite Super Bowls, although my 49ers lost by only 3 points. The two brothers, Harbaugh, it's a surname Harbaugh, it's also known as a blackout ball, and for the first time and only time, there has never been an occurrence event such as that, of course, two brothers faced in the biggest sports event of, I guess, North America, because world, you know, it's a Canadian, we got that CFL, brothers and sisters, is NFL, Canadian Football League, National Football League, but we're speaking about North American Football League, aka that gridiron, which I love, but dancing is my number one sport and fitness activity. After that is gridiron, football, and boxing, and hockey, and basketball, and volleyball, and all the rest of the sports in order. You know, all the sports, fitness activity. I have some love and some appreciation for all fitness activity and sports, but number one for me has been, is, and will be dancing. You know, dancing is a sport for me. So, but nonetheless, that was one of my favorite football Super Bowls, and that's what I got with that, and Super Bowl, and that was a 3-point victory by not my team, the other team, the Ravens, Baltimore. So I still got to check where the game was played. I will to build on the Canadian-US border. This mass financing, public-private partnership, a PPP to build that Coliseum, black, white, and rainbow. Let's go NFL National Football League. Let's go NHL National Hockey League. Let's go NBA National Basketball Association, MLB. Please reduce the cost of the tickets by 44.9%. Need be for the reduction of the tickets so that with the prices increasing, and my debt refusion theory best at this point in time as I'm on this marching jog, a little bit of jogging, stretching my hips left and right. Just a little bit of warm up before I go on more than 3 hours, because I'm gonna go do some math with an anonymous friend. And I love math, you know, I just love math. And I remember high school, I got retrograde amnesia and loss of memory. I just remember a few years ago moving from a very moldy red mold, black mold, and green mold, you know. I just remember moving from an underground moldy red, moldy green, moldy underground, small underground basement place which I had, and I moved about more than 7, 8, 9, maybe more than 9 years ago, maybe more than 9. Gotta check. I don't know exactly when I moved, but I remember moving and was depressed, was suicidal, depressed, suicidal. Cross Canada, coast to coast, I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians. I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians. I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians. And that's when I established a strong esprit de corps, you know, with my fellow Canadians. Fellow Canadians. Canadians are my family, and all who pledge allegiance to our family, and always meditating about little gadgets like this. I'm grateful, thankful I got mine. I can take a bath, which I should before. Of course, today, tomorrow probably best. Last day of winter 2025 tomorrow. So we're gonna get on that ball, hot. And yours truly, pledge your allegiance. Dragon versus Trump is gonna be the first boxing match, inauguration of the boxing match by yours truly, Dragon versus Trump, on the Canadian-US border. On the Canadian-US border. Let's go build our North American People's Imperial Coliseum to be 11 times bigger than I still gotta check where it was because I don't know by heart. The hardball ball, aka blackout ball, played. Blackout ball, aka hardball ball. Hardball from the surnames and the two brothers coaches. My 49ers lost, but it was a good one nonetheless. A very good Super Bowl, and probably gonna watch it again soon within the next 72 hours, do some drills and fitness, always 24/7 sports, fitness, geopolitics with yours truly. Rock and roll for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, and grocery store clerks, all involved in the production, distribution of food, you know. And that's what we gotta get doing. We gotta get that gratitude because civilization is a privilege, and coast to coast, ocean to ocean, get that 51 legions. 51 legions to be part of the Dragon Army, aka the new United North American Integrated Security Service and Defense Force, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, based on my philosophies and protocols. And we're going to be commencing drills in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead for the 51, and need to mobilize 1% and create these new institutions and finance it via mass PPP, public-private partnership, PPP, public-private partnership, just like the building of the North American People's Coliseum on the Canadian-US border. 11 times bigger, to be 11 times bigger than that stadium arena, where the Super Bowl hardball ball, where the Super Bowl hardball ball, where the Super Bowl, aka the hardball ball, the Super Bowl, aka the hardball ball, was played. You know, the Super Bowl, the hardball ball was played, and on the Canadian-US border, we gotta get in on that building right there. So let's go, construction workers, credit construction workers, and all who will participate. Trillions of kisses, feet washing, massages, rock and roll, some of that rock and roll, massages, feet washing of those feet, hands, and massages for the body, because I know it's hard to be a construction worker. It's hard to be a construction worker, you know. I had a few stints in different here and there, warehouse labor and steel factory. I worked during COVID in a steel factory and warehouse, but you know, Asperger's makes that people misunderstand, and a lot of fellow citizens unfortunately have not a very vivid education of the condition known as Asperger's, which is a neurological mental divergent condition, not a mental illness. And of course, myself, you know, only past about 45 months during COVID, I have accepted, of course, that I have it, because I've been diagnosed for many years, and many years I've been kind of not accepting it. But yes, I'm neurodivergent. I am different, you know. So my neurodivergence makes me, just like many Aspies, predisposed to certain special interests, and also known as obsessive interests. But of course, we also have our strengths. Our strengths, of course, as I cross this bridge, would always also have to build bridges within myself, part of this minority called neurodivergence, who live with HFA, high functioning autism, Asperger's, which is less than 1%, less than half percentile, about 0.44%. So maybe not even 1 out of 300. So it's a very rare neurological mental divergent condition. It's not common, but of course, I also got to build bridges, and in certain things, Aspies were less able. We do not possess the same capabilities and knowledge of certain social cues, social information, social awareness, and ways that, for example, when to speak, personal space. Aspies, we have a tendency to breach the personal space. So an Aspie like myself could get very close to somebody in conversation, really inches, 3 inches, let's say a few inches from the face, and so close so that people get intimidated. You know, it's things of that nature. It's just because our brains is wired differently. So due to our brains being neurodivergent, these social things and social interactions and communicating socially in the normative, the majority way, it always requires an effort, a tremendous effort, and some people misalign, misconstrue, misunderstand. There's a lot of misunderstandings about what it is, and we can be pretty pretty concentrated, pretty intense. We can be concentrated, super focused. When we're dealing with our special interest, I'm gonna cross the street here, just make sure I cross the street properly, So when we are super focused and super intense when we're dealing in those special interests. So those special interests for Aspies diverge, right? Because they're not the same. For me, it's geopolitics, and even today, I spend about 5 hours with just going to the washroom, having coffee, putting coffee, making something to eat, and I realized that I made something to eat around 11 for 1 o'clock, and of course I ate it. It was past 3. It was almost 4. So I realized that so much I was immersed in geopolitics, in the analysis, the study of geopolitics, that, of course, I had neglected to nourish myself. So these things that matter on a daily basis for many Aspies, due to those special interests where we're super concentrated, super focused, super in it, we can have more difficulty, we can neglect them, So I gotta work on the hygiene, I gotta increase my hygiene, public hygiene. I still maintain the public hygiene or the protocols of the public hygiene during COVID, and I still, of course, take daily showers and hygiene at home, but I can increase in those things because the majority of our daily habits, daily routines is surrounded by those special interests which preoccupy our habits, our ritual routines. Just gonna do some sun salutation. That's my Pope the King the Sun, and bury me with Papa Crowley, 1/3 of me up in Hampton, New Jersey, 1/3 of me up in the Mount Royal, and 1/3 of me sending the city of the pyramids, and there's my Pope the King the Sun, always shining. And gotta give some salutation to the construction workers, the public workers who build all the railways of the North American Collective. In 2023 we merged that CP Kansas City Rail, and here we are on the Kansas City Rail, the train conductors, we got a train conductors on them, and here we are in the North American Collective in Montreal West. I gotta get a beautiful sun, as I got some nice sun now, so now I can, of course, correlate to do some mathematics. And like I said about Asperger's, it's just a neurological mental divergent condition which I live with, and our daily routines and habits, they are surrounded around those elements, those special interests, also known as obsessive interest. And just like I said before, a priori, I've mentioned, of course, that geopolitics, I spend every day hours and hours and hours analyzing geopolitical events, because of course they merge, and of course they happen on the daily basis. So I always gotta do vigilance and prudence, for the XYZ, because sometimes there's cars passing and I gotta be extra vigilant. But here they're not supposed to pass. Here they're supposed to get priority. Here you're supposed to get priority to the pedestrians, So you just gotta watch it. Also be careful because of the sun, I guess sometimes, But technically that is a pedestrian. Pedestrians have the priority there. 100% pedestrians got the priority there. So that's just what it is with Asperger's. Special interest, routines, habits, and I'm pretty flexible. I think I'm not inflexible. Some Aspies, we're also individuals. Asperger's has a variance in intensity and degrees of manifestation, the characteristics, because they're not symptoms. Once again, they're not symptoms. Symptoms is for a mental illness. Symptoms is for a mental illness. While Asperger's is a neurological mental divergent condition. So that's what it is, and that's what I gotta live with, and it's just the symptoms. I gotta manage the characteristics, not the symptoms, because there's not symptoms which you can treat in a malady, in a disease, in other psychiatric disorders. There's no medication for Asperger's. Aspies have to be fully supported, fully supported in the special interests. Those special interests which of course can preoccupy our daily habits, our daily routine with that. So that's what it is with that, and that's what it is with XYZ. And look at the beautiful, wow, look at that beautiful evergreen. So nice, so tall, so tall. Wow, those are just twins, eh? Just twins. And here you got quadruplets. Quadruplets. I don't know, I just love some evergreens and all that, but those are look exactly identically like twins. Anyway, so back to what I was saying, for the XYZ, and now I gotta get back to my headquarters on the spiel, and that's what it is with that, and gotta put it on the go, so it's something which we gotta do, and something which we gotta manage as Aspies. We have those special interests which preoccupy our daily habits and routines, and can be very intense. I spend hours and hours a day, and my geopolitics I had as an independent geopolitical analyst and theorist. I also got to repeat because it's part of my work, which is on a daily basis, and as an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist who has again predicted the international conflagration that's occurring now back in 2019. In October, November, that's occurring now. Back in 2019, that's occurring now. I had predicted it based on several layers, parameters, and one of the parameters was that, of course, I have been dissecting is that, of course, the many regions, nation states were not able, of course, to resolve their conflicts peacefully. And these conflicts, which dated from the 20th century, from the Cold War, are going to restart. So many, I had concluded that, but many levels of analysis and many, of course, different motives and reasons that I concluded such that humanity is set again towards an international conflagration, aka World War III, is that I foresaw that these civilizations and nation states and geographical regions were not able to fully resolve their conflicts from the 20th century. So from the 20th century, especially during the Cold War period, which is a major historical era, and of course, it was something which, I gotta cross the street. Gotta be careful there, here, when you cross the street, always gotta be careful here. Because sometimes they come fast, They come fast and the brakes malfunction, so always be prudent, add prudence, turn your head left and right. So I had concluded that humanity is set again towards an international conflagration, and so humanity being set again towards an international conflagration, many of those conflicts which are not fully resolved from the 20th century are going to restart intensity, and that's what's basically happening. What's happening. But Russia-Ukraine is dating from the unresolved conflict of the 20th century and the dissolution of the Soviet Union in end of December 1991. Right, so those conflicts date from that era. And then the Israel and the Middle East, these are also conflicts which predate that. Which predate that. So that's what it is with that. So they predated, and gotta send some love there for my fellow citizen to get it on the go, and that's why we gotta go. Here, my cousins, my aunties, and uncles, and cousins, and great Quebec, Canadian, North American family here, It's got red. Favorite color, that's what I said. So that's what I predicted, as humanity is again gonna embark. Those conflicts are gonna restart, and potentially on the horizon is the Taiwan, China. What Taiwan is known as the Republic of China, And mainland China is known as the People's Republic of China. So potentially that's a conflict which can start any minute, any second, any minute, any hour, any day, any second, any minute, any hour, any day, any second, any minute, any hour, any day. So that's another conflict which they have not fully resolved in the 20th century, before the establishment in 1949, in October, Mao Zedong's proclamation of the Republic, People's Republic of China, the socialist, communist, Marxist, Leninist, Maoist civilizational complex, because China is building what they call their socialist spiritual civilization. So as much as I say, and I can pronounce myself, and I know the ideologies, and if you want to discuss China, you have to know a little bit about the governance of China, So knowing a little bit about the governance of China, you have to know their ideologies. But as much as I can know by learning, in them building a socialist spiritual civilization, in my language, spirituality is more related to rock and roll. So I'm never going to grasp the ideas fully behind the translation. There might be a missing translation or lost in translation. You know what I mean? So lost in translation. There might be that a part lost in translation. And as much as, because when I say spiritual, the sun civilization, and my spirituality is Thelema, and lots of rock and roll goddess. I will to build the forgotten goddess temple, but that's it, DRT now, death fusion theory. Death fusion theory is super important that I discuss it. The death fusion theory for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange rate. The universal exchange rate. Of the universal exchange rate. So due to the fact that we paid in 2024, but that's like gold. In 2024 we paid, and that's nice. 2024 we paid 46.5 billion interest on the public debt. We paid 46.5 billion in interest only. That is only the amount of interest which we paid. That interest in 2020-2021 went from 20.3 billion. 20.3 billion times 2, that would have been 40.6. 20.3 billion times 2, that would have been 40.6. 20.3 times 2, it's 40.6. The number went more than double. 20.3 double is 40.6. In just the interest paid on the public debt, you realize, right, that this is not sustainable, and we are on a point where there's a potential economic fallout and a black swan event for the public finances of Canada, whereas there is a collapse of the public finances of Canada, where there's a collapse of the public finances of Canada, where there's a collapse. Black swan, worst case scenario, it's possible because it's not sustainable, right? The GDP of Canada, the economy of Canada, the GDP has not doubled. There was only an increase of 1%, 2%, 3%. So just like an individual, if the salary doesn't double, I don't have credit cards, I showed yesterday on my video, showed how much I pay, 10.44%, 10.44% I pay, because it was lowered, it was almost 11, but just a few last week, there was a lowered again, so that's good for you, fellow citizen. I gotta salute, send some love. I love to see that, and my smile now on the face, and say go, keep on jogging, that's good. And I love to see people exercising, and so he's safe, and his liberty, my security is 50-50, you know. 50-50, he's not my enemy. He might be centrist, left, right, but we're North Americans, we gotta unite. And Dragon versus Trump is, at the end of the day, who's gonna run if there's an invasion of the USA? Rainbow Dragon, Clit Dick Cuckold, General Cuckold, Rainbow Dragon is gonna run in with a backpack towards the border, south, where I'm heading now. My steps are directed south towards the border, so it's me who's gonna jog to come if there's an invasion from the east or from the west, from whatever, China, Russia, whatever else. Because the King Charles, I don't know if King Charles is King of England. It's time for the Republic, that gotta go. King is absent. The DRT is on the table. Death fusion theory is the only solution. You can argue all you want, or something very similar. very similar to the very similar to the DRT theory is what it is. Very similar to the DRT theory, the death fusion theory for the creation of the UE, the death fusion theory, you know, the DRT death fusion theory for the creation of the UE, for the creation of the UE, you know, for the creation of the universal exchange. And that's what you gotta do. The king is absent. It's time for the reply like a beautiful raven. Crow. Love crows. And hawks. Hawks is my totem bird. Hawk, H-A-W-K, in the mantra Hakal and debt fusion theory. My DRT explained now. So, due to the fact that we now paid so much on the interest, just the interest has more than doubled. Imagine as an individual citizen whose interest payments would have doubled. If the interest payments of some citizen double, more than double, that means automatically that a citizen, of course, has to do what? If, of course, the interest double, that means that what? If a citizen interest double, that means that, of course, one has to reduce, you know, has to reduce the spending, So being that you have to reduce the spending, that's what it is with that. That you have to reduce the spending, meaning you have to reduce and cut it in half, you know, or whatever the case may be. That's what I gotta get doing with that. You know, so it's half, you know. So that's what we're gonna have to do, implement the DRT. Let's go through here, to the side. Oh yeah, through there, let me go through there and get on the go. So the DRT theory. Debt fusion for the creation of the UE. Debt fusion theory for the creation of the UE. DRT. Debt fusion theory. The DRT theory. The youth are happy, I'm happy. That's what matters. The youth are happy, I'm happy. So we gotta get it on the go. We gotta get it on the now. So the debt fusion theory, we gotta get on that XYZ. So that's what we gotta get doing here. Saluting the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, grocery store clerks, and all those who gotta get that LOV. And that's what we gotta get doing with that. And that's what it is here, you know. The debt fusion theory. DRT, debt fusion theory for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange unit, you know, so that's what it is, you know, so being that it is the DRT, is the only solution, the debt fusion theory, that's what we gotta get doing, you know, so we gotta get, that's true, isn't it? So we gotta get doing on that, and we gotta get doing on the LOV, you know, and debt fusion theory for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange unit, That's what we gotta be building with that. That's what we gotta be building, you know. So sometimes we gotta get drilling now, you know, and sometimes we just gotta get on the officiant, you know. It's okay. Yeah, they gotta give priority, you know. Anyways. I don't know why that 44 bus. So back to what I was saying, the debt fusion theory best. Well, actually, something very similar is the only solution. Well, if not my theory, something very, very similar. Because the amount of interest paid on the debt has doubled. So that is where the problem lies, you see? Because just like an individual citizen whose debt, interest, payments, debt doubles, if the debt doubles, right? So if the debt doubles, if the debt doubles, the interest that is paid on the debt, not necessarily the principal, then one has to reduce and cut the spending, right? Cut the spending, reduce the spending. So an individual who has to reduce the spending, to cut the spending, to reduce the spending, to reduce the spending, to cut the spending. That's what it is now. So to reduce the spending, you have to cut in the budget because it's not sustainable. One has to cut the spending automatically. The mathematical financial principle. And of course, the same principle applies with the public debt. So it went from 20.3 billion Canadian public debt to 46.5 billion. 46.5 billion. So you realize the numbers is not sustainable. We're gonna have to cut. What are we gonna cut in the public? And yes, due to COVID, yeah, many programs were implemented, and due to COVID, most of the reason why the interest only, debt servicing only, the interest on the public debt of Canada has more than doubled from 20.3 to 46.5, from 20.3 to 46.5, from 20.3 to 46.5. You know, that's what it is with that. That's what it is with that. So from 20.3 double to 40.6, 46.5. So having that it double, more than doubled. Of course, we're gonna have to. What are we gonna cut? I saw a few weeks ago, it was in the news that the reduction there has been by thousands of employees of Immigration Canada jobs, which is a public institution. But what else are we gonna cut? The police, the RCMP, the police, those who pick up the garbage, the recycling, public sanitation, healthcare. We have to reduce drastically. It started already, because the economy has not doubled. You realize in the situation where as an individual citizen X, citizen Y, who, let's say, paid $156 in 2020, 2021 on the public debt. On his private debt, correction. A citizen who pays 156 on the private debt, it doubles to 333 because 156 double is 312. So if it goes from 156 to 333, that citizen has to automatically cut, maybe stop smoking, stop drinking. Whatever the case may be, I don't smoke, I don't drink personally, but you don't know, whatever the case may be for an individual on an individual level basis, right? Drinking, smoking, going out to clubs, going out to the diners, going out, ordering food, going out to the movies, and reducing the Netflix, cutting whatever phone services, reducing the internet has to be reduced. His, hers, they, whatever his citizen, XYZ, has to reduce, has to cut the budget because it's not sustainable, it cannot be sustained. So my DRT theory, which includes monetary integration theory, or something very similar to my theory, is the only solution. Something which resembles my solution. Now, we are 18th of March 2025. There's no way around it. As you will to argue left and right, most who work in finance, public and private, central bank, these numbers are available because it's public information. It's not like a private citizen, he, her, they, whatever the case may be, black, white, and rainbow, if you will to divulge, like I showed the transparency on my bank accounts, you know. But whatever the case may be, I'm in the red, I'm in the minus, financially stressed at the moment, but paradoxically due to Asperger's, my DRT is the solution. So we're going to take all my DRT theory contains monetary integration theory. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt, all the private and the public debt, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, all the public and the private debt, all the public and the private debt, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We're going to take all the public and the private debt. My $10,000, your $10,000, whatever the case may be. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, all the public and the private debt. All that debt is going to be converted into US dollars, And we're going to add it with the Canadian, preferably to implement the DRT, my debt refusion theory, which integrates in it monetary integration theory, which is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. Wednesday, of course, in the 90s. They destroyed their central banks, national central banks of Germany, Italy, France, and many countries, and they created a ECB, European Central Bank, to issue a common currency known as the euro. So we're going to do the same. My DRT theory includes that financial theory. And the United States, my brothers and sisters in the USA, are first and foremost in the same parallel economic, financial situation, the vast majority, for both the public and the private. So that's why the DRT will be implemented simultaneously. Canada, US, and we're going to get rid of the border. Get rid of the border, create a common currency, common passport, do a great census of Canada and the 51 states, Canada, the 51 states. Dragon versus Trump. I'm no Trump supporter, and please, Trump, with that, we're going to rebuild the North American ghettos, aka the North American inner urban cities. We're going to rebuild them, and we're going to do better in healthcare for the public. And we're going to mass finance fitness and tourism and leisure and tourism and volunteering. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt. My 10,000, your 10,000, our 10,000. My 10,000, your 10,000. All the public and the private debt. All that debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. Into US dollars, you know. Into US dollars, into United States dollars. So we're gonna add it with the US, all public-private debt of Canada. We're gonna add it with the US. That money is gonna be the initial money supply for a new central bank, whatever you call it. And we're going to issue a new currency called the UE. U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The U dot universal, U dot, E dot, U dot. The universal exchanger is going to have the value of the US dollar. We're going to set an interest rate level of 10%. 10%. It could be 3.33, 7.18, 4.18, 6.1, 9.3, below 10% by principle. So it's going to be a new financial principle, and it's not going to be able to be more than 10%. So that's going to be a maximum. That's going to be the maximum thereafter. It's going to be like the new rule, financial rule thereafter. So that's what it's going to be. The DRT, debt refusion for the creation of the universal exchange unit. So again, this is the only solution, or something similar, which resemble my solution. And you can check with the Bank of Canada. Bank of Canada, of course, has the information requirements, and of course all the information there is provided in the Auntie Christian Freeland resigned from Minister of Finance. But you can check it with the Bank of Canada, Miss Cousin Tiff Macklin, and these are the numbers which exist in real life, and that's all we gotta get doing. The DRT, debt refusion treaty, for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange unit. The universal exchange unit. So that's all we gotta get doing with that. So we're gonna need to rebuild buildings like this, and if they have some talent, I guess, foster the talent for graffiti, but faster than channel, just like aggression. And personally, I'm somebody who does not like violence at all. I do not like violence. I just do not like violence, just something I don't like. But nonetheless, that's what it is with that. So these are so beautiful. Look at that, all the way to the top. Wow. Isn't that just gorgeous? Anyway, so that's how we're gonna get doing with that, and that's how we're gonna get on the LoV. So the DRT, debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange unit, is what we gotta do. There's no way around it. The debt refusion theory or something similar, and we're gonna take all the public and the private debt. My debt, your debt, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We're going to create the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, the Dancing Goddess Army, DGA Dancing Goddess Army, aka the North American Integrated Sports League, for the sports league, for dancing, for pleasure, planting trees, for pleasure and for the environment, and the Dragon Army, for security and service, and defense, play that DDDD like that hardball ball, aka blackout ball. And with that money, with the implementation of my DRT theory, we're gonna be able to build those 44 tunnels, construct 44 tunnels, construct 44 tunnels. The number after 43 before 45 is 44 tunnels across Canada, United States joint. Stack them with cans, food which can last 3.5 years, 5 years, 7 years, 11 years, 44 years, and that's what it is with that. And 44 years, 44 tunnels, you know, gotta build it, and that's what we're gonna get doing with the building thereof, and sometimes which we gotta get on the building thereof, you know. The 44 tunnels, 44 tunnels, 44 tunnels, which we have to build soon, you know, because in case of a thermonuclear war, something which we have to build and construct, you know, build and construct. 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war. That's what we gotta build ASAP, and my DRT theory would enable that, and gonna do a census of all who live in Canada, United States, since let's say February 2020, or when I crossed Canada in September 2017. So for the past 7, let's say more than 5 or more than 7 years, or minimum 7, or minimum past 5, and preferably in the past 7 years, who had not left the collective North American civilizational complex, of which Canada, US is a common destiny, has a common destiny here in the New World, as we are distinct but not divorced from Western civilization, as we are distinct but not divorced from Western civilization, as we are distinct from Western civilization, from Western civilization, you know. So being that we're distinct, not divorced, we have to get that DRT, that refusion tree for us. Pledge your allegiance, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and all who come to join us, absolutely, you know, all ALL who come, of course, to join us as well. All who come to join us in this new endeavor, pledge your allegiance, the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom. We're gonna build the forgotten goddess temple. The forgotten goddess temple, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, both on the Canadian-US border. For some garbage, and my house, pyramid, scarlet, crimson, and scarlet are shades of red. Something in my eye, the right one. Earlier today was the left in the morning, now sunset is the right, but now it seems like it's right again. And the Rainbow People's Palace, which I will to build for my fellow LGBTQ community, you know, pledge your allegiance, and sometimes we just gotta get drilling with that, and you know, sometimes we just gotta be grateful for the day, you know. As I survived COVID back in 2020, and here I am with auctioning everything that I'm wearing, the DRT on the table, pledge your allegiance. We're gonna do lots of good by implementing my DRT theory, clean the oceans, the rivers, and mass finance fitness, mass finance citizens to work out, train, exercise, mass finance citizens, mass finance fitness, working out, training, exercising, and all those good DGA environment, plant trees, and we're gonna get it for the 51 legions, part of the Dragon Army, only for security, service, and defense. Here we are, Rainbow Dragon, LOVE, to the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, all those involved in the production, distribution of food, and encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. Working out, train, exercising has been, is, and shall continue to be my medicine and therapy of choice, as we rock and roll on the grill, and just go check on that LYZ there, LYZ, and gotta get it on the gotta get it on the now. So something which we gotta be mindful of, as we are part of the complex, and pledge your allegiance. That's what we gotta go doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing for some LOV, you know, for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, all those in the complex, and get a little bit of that exercise, get a little bit of that fitness. Always does double good, double trouble, and always get some of that good loving, and gotta get some of that good math now. Pledge your allegiance. Rock and roll for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors on the door. Trucks and the firefighters, that DRT's what we got. Kisses and hugs, and you know we gotta spark a lot on the block, hip and hop for that rock and roll.